Hi, everybody. It's been long that we've been speaking about a lot of different destinations, and today we thought let's talk of one country that we haven't spoken of before. And I really love this country because, when you're traveling and you can buy this set of picture postcards. Now, just imagine that putting all of those picture postcards together, and there you have it, this beautiful country called Austria, because each and every place here is just perfect. I mean, you really can't take bad photographs in Austria because name it, the city, the lakes, the mountains, there is something that will always make you feel like you are in paradise. So as usual, this is Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life with Veena Word, and I'm Sunila, and Neil is also here with me. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Sunila. Well, I think you put it very right, and I think you should be doing most of the episode introductions because putting all postcards together gives you Austria. I often mess up Austria and Australia when I'm like trying to just take the name, but hopefully during this episode, I don't say Australia. I only keep saying Austria. So, where do we start? Like, I think my childhood memories are of you and my mom and my cousin Rajasi all watching Sound of Music together and just talking about Austria all the time, singing all of those songs, including that Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti. So that reminds me of Australia, and that the first time I went there, it was just what we saw in the movie. So what's a good point to start?
Neil, I think you're right, and you're not the only one. A lot of people actually just keep confusing and speaking because the names are so similar, right? I mean, they are really similar, but they are words apart. And even in terms of what you get to see and do, there is a lot of difference in Australia and Austria. But of course, we will be doing a lot of different episodes on Australia for sure. But today, let's focus on Austria. And you're right, the word Austria and Sound of Music, it's just synonymous for me. It just goes hand in hand because since my childhood also, Neil, I have grown up watching Sound of Music. And I remember at that point, they actually showed it in the theaters in Mumbai, in Sterling. There used to be Sterling Cinema, and we went and saw Sound of Music. And, we were just so excited that I did not dream I would be visiting Austria so many times when I saw the movie. But it's amazing. Once you visit Austria, whether you know Sound of Music or not, it is still really stunning. And there is a lot of connect of Austria with music, but we'll come to that later. I think to start off with, a good point would be for first timers, because many people often visit Switzerland, France, UK, and then Austria kind of fits in later. But I'm sure that if you visited it once, you'll want to come back and do a tour of only Austria. So Neil, I think let's start with the cities. What do you think? Like, because there are lakes, there are mountains, there are cities, and there are 100 other reasons to come here. But being so picturesque, even the cities are so pretty. So let's start off with the cities, Neil.
I think that's a good point to start because even Sound of Music starts off in the cities, right? And for a first timer, the three cities, which are the main cities, that is Salzburg, Innsbruck, and Vienna, are something that you have to do. Now, if you're doing Austria, these three cities must feature in your itinerary, and there are many other ones that feature. So, what should we start with Vienna? Because,
Yes, that would be
yeah.
perfect. It is the capital, and often it is the gateway point for a lot of people. I must say that the other cities, some of them connect really well with Germany. So if you're flying in, you can fly to Munich and drive down or take the train to Salzburg or Innsbruck, or fly into Vienna and start your journey because it's a nice long linear route from there. And if you're in Vienna, then there are a lot of things to do and see. Of course, it is the seat of the Habsburgs, like the Habsburg Empire, which ruled all of Austria, Prague, Budapest together, and was actually, Neil, the second largest empire after Russia at that point. So the country, which was a united Austria, was amazing. And they really loved their life, the royalty. So, like think Bridgerton kind of a thing where you can really see all of the royalty and coming out and balls and waltzes, all of that comes from Vienna. So even today, you can actually go to a waltz in Vienna, and the waltzing season, the dance season, starts somewhere in winter. So from October to March or something like that, they would have the waltzing season or waltz season out there. But Vienna, the two main sites that everybody who would go would see are, of course, the Hofburg and the Schönbrunn Palace, which were the Schönbrunn was the summer residence and Hofburg was the main residence. What is really interesting is in Hofburg, there is actually a riding school for horses, and it's called the Spanish riding school. So you'll wonder, Spanish riding school in Austria and Vienna, but the horses were Spanish. And you can even today see, of course, depending on the pandemic and if things are really open, but there's a really nice show with the horses to music, which is something you should definitely not miss in Vienna. But Neil, you love food, and there are lots of things in Vienna to do with food also.
So, it's often said that before speaking of food, Vienna has a cafe culture, right?
That's right.
And I'll let you talk about the coffee or how coffee became a habit of Vienna. But there's one thing that you should always remember, and I've watched a lot of videos where if you go to any cafe or restaurant in like Austria, if you go to any cafe or restaurant in Austria, there's one thing, or especially Vienna, you will often, like, tourists think that the server isn't coming to them just because like he or she, they are just being rude. But in Vienna, there's this culture where you can sit at a cafe for an hour, 4 hours, 10 hours. No one's going to say anything. It's that culture where they want you to have your own private space, and they will only come to you when you are asking them to come, or you've asked for something. Even after you finished your meal, you'll not see someone coming with a bill to your table unless you ask for it. So that is quite distinct when it comes to Vienna. Another thing about Vienna is that if you are traveling using the public transport, because the public transport in Vienna is incredibly good, you will see that there isn't like a ticket checker or a ticket collector over there. And often tourists assume that that means that no one's going to check. That means I'm not going to pay for it. But in Vienna, if you meet any tourist guide, they will always say pay for it, because no one's going to come to you and ask you, hey, have you bought a ticket? Unless there are some stations where they realize that many people are taking advantage of the system. It's a culture of trust. It's a culture of being honest to someone, and the other person is honest to you. And that's why you'll see on the public transport, which includes the trams, which include the trains, you will not find many ticket checkers.
That's right.
But of course, fines are way higher if you're caught without one. But it's a culture of honesty where they often say, right, in Austria, if you were to drop your wallet in the middle of the street and to come back an hour or two later, that wallet will still be there, on out there. So similar thing happens out there. But when it comes to the food, there are many different things. But before I get into the food, do you want to speak something about the coffee and how it became like Vienna's identity?
Yes, Neil. I mean, you mentioned public transport, and just want to add there that the tram number 1 in Austria, in Vienna, is really something that you should be on, because this covers all the scenic sites together. So it's like I was reading something and they really described it like a little safari train, but instead of animals, you actually see all the major sites. And the road was made first, the buildings were built later. So it's really well built. Ringstrasse is the main circular route of Austria, which is a beautiful boulevard which surrounds Vienna. And there was a wall there earlier, medieval wall, which they took down and created this beautiful street which is called Ringstrasse. It is really in the form of a ring, so it is a circular route, and tram number 1 kind of goes on that route, and you can just sit there and reach all the major sites that you want to. So it is the perfect way to get around if you're there in Vienna. Along with that, the coffee culture, that is something I really enjoyed in Vienna. And everywhere I go, I love coffee. So I always try and check if there is something that I enjoy. And in Vienna, I realized that they have something called the melange. So the melange is very similar to a cappuccino. It is a milky coffee, but I just thought it was a little stronger and really nice. So if I had to choose honestly between a cappuccino and melange, I would choose the melange. What is interesting is, how did Vienna become the seat of coffee? How did it become popular? So actually this happened when, during the siege of Vienna, when the Turks came in here and they tried to capture Austria. Well, they were driven out. The Austrians were successful in, chasing off the invaders, but the Turks left back lots of coffee beans, and that's how it came in to be a part of Viennese cafe culture. And like you said, they really want to enjoy the time and enjoy life, because Vienna is also one of the most best places to live in the world. So people don't just rush, or they just don't take a coffee while going from one place to other. They really like to enjoy their times, and Viennese coffee houses, cafes are something that you can't miss, with the marble tops, and it's really something you must do. And when I was in Vienna, Neil, there was something very unique they were serving, which was also tea, like normal tea, black tea with rum in it. And I thought that was a very strange combination, but everybody seemed to be enjoying it. It was a very small cafe, local cafe, but that's also something that they are doing there.
So, to add to that, I'll also say that dessert is a big thing, because with coffee,
Yes.
dessert goes, right. And of course, everyone knows of the Apfelstrudel, which is the apple strudel, a popular pastry dish, right? And in Vienna, you'll get it at any cafe. You just go there, ask for an apple filled pastry or an Apfelstrudel, you will have it. It's made of cinnamon, sugar, raisins, of course, is a dessert dish. But at the same time, there is also a dessert in Austria which
Mhm.
is known to be fit for an emperor. Now, why would you say it's fit for an emperor? Because not many people know the origin of this dish, but they say that this was created by the Austrian emperor Francis Joseph I himself. Now, this is called the Kaiserschmarrn or Kaiserschmarrn. Okay. And it's a dish that is made up of fluffy caramelized pancake and just torn apart and sprinkled with sugar. And on the side, you have like plums or other hot fruit. Now, you may have seen this at many restaurants in Mumbai also, where there's a pancake, it's been pulled apart, and then there's like sugar sprinkled on top. But if you were to find the origins of this dish, it is called the Kaiserschmarrn, and it was it is said that it was created by the Austrian emperor. And that's why in Austria or in Vienna, it's often said that if you order this dessert, of course you will say Kaiserschmarrn, but it indeed translates to the emperor's mess, because your plate is a mess of pancake torn apart and sprinkled everywhere and all of that. So yep, that was the food. I'll keep
No, Neil, there's
bringing
one
in.
more. You cannot
Yeah,
miss the Sacher torte when you are in Vienna. So this is at the Sacher Hotel, and you can go in there, and the recipe is
Sakar
supposed to
is
be,
sugar, right?
that's sugar.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be have been kept in a safe because it is so precious. And this is like you said, fit for a king again. And Austrian state chancellor Prince Clemens Wenzel von Metternich had told his team to come up with something that is most amazing cake. And as luck would have it, the chef fell ill. So Franz Sacker, who was actually just an apprentice, he kind of took the stage and he created this beautiful chocolate on chocolate dessert. So it's a cake which is like just full of chocolate, and then again it has a glazed chocolate on top, and it is still being served around the world. It won everyone's hearts, and it's considered as one of Europe's most famous cakes. So that is also something that you must try when you're there.
When there's legacy or history attached to a dish, it instantly becomes famous, right? And
That's
this
true.
is one example. And we spoke about the Raffles Singapore sling in the
Yes.
last episode. They created this legacy around it. If you ask Singaporeans, they'll be like, no, we don't have it at all, and
Mhm.
you'll not find it in bars. But the moment there's a story attached to it, it just
Mhm.
becomes more interesting, more popular. And that's what we live for, right? We want to experience things that have a story attached. Speaking of story, should we move on to the next city?
I think so.
So the city, well, like you said, that music is such a massive thing in Austria. I think it's just apt that we go to the city of Mozart, and that is Salzburg, right?
That's right. And Mozart was born in Salzburg. He did live in Vienna also, but he was born in Salzburg. And Gasse is the street that he was born on. And I remember the first time I went, I just loved this street. It has the most amazing and, traditional, historic looking signs, like the shop signs for me on Gasse, which is like a car-free street. And you can walk there, shopping street, but Mozart's house sits right in the middle, and you can visit that. You can also, they've created like a museum for him, so you can visit that as well, and you can hear music anywhere in this city. It is just so beautiful. What was really interesting for me on Gasi was the sign of McDonald's, Neil, because typically you see McDonald's everywhere and you see the golden arches and it's Mac. And here it was in Austrian style. So it kind of blended in with the street and it didn't stick out like a sore thumb that, it didn't take away anything from the beauty of that place. Salzburg is really the city on the river Salz, and it literally means the place of the salt. And in those times, there was a lot of salt in the area, even today, and which was being extracted from the mountains from the Salzkammergut area, and it was being transported because salt was used to store meat. So it was one of the most precious commodities, and that's how the entire area is known as that. In Salzburg, of course, if you're a Sound of Music fan, then you can take a Sound of Music tour, and they take you around the city. They show you where the movie was shot, which places, how did they do it. You can sing along. Even they keep playing the songs in the coach as well. They take you to the church where Maria gets married. They take you where the children are laughing and singing songs, the Mirabel Gardens. So you can't help but break into song and dance when you visit Salzburg, for sure.
What do you think is a good amount of time that one should spend in Salzburg?
I would see, for me, for a first timer, I think Salzburg city itself is perfect. So 2-3 nights at least, because there's a lot to do in and around the area. So even if you go to the fortress, the Salzburg fortress, in a day, and you visit the church and you walk through the city and you see all of Salzburg. See, if you want to just tick off the sites, you can do it in a day. But if you want to really absorb the city, then spend at least 2 to 3 nights. And Neil, since we are on this topic, I would like to talk about the area around Salzburg, which is known as Salzkammergut. And Salzkammergut is a area of astounding natural beauty. There are about 70 lakes just in this one small region. So just imagine. And Austria is known for its lakes, just crystal clear water, very beautiful. And it has some of the romantic towns like Mondsee, Wolfgangsee, Hallstatt. These are all places that you can visit in a day from Salzburg. Or I would say, if you're doing it a second time, or even for the first timers, if you want to stay in something that is really beautiful in nature, go and stay in the smaller regions. So Hallstatt, for example, is again a car-free village, and it is the iconic image of Austria that you would see, with the church tower by the lake. And you can take a train, get off, and then take a boat and come here. Salzkammergut region again has a ice cave, so you can visit into Darkstein, the ice caves. It also has a salt mine, and I remember going there. And the first time when we went there, I said, "Wow, this is amazing," because it's supposed to be older than, like, more than 4,000 years or something. The people knew that there was salt in the mountains, and obviously they were underwater at some point. So even just to think of it, it's crazy. What is really interesting for families here is that you actually dress up like a salt miner. So you are in overalls and a jumpsuit. They give you clothes, they show you, they guide you. You go around and you see how the salt actually would come off from the mountains. They would mix it with water, put it as brine, and then lower down in Salzburg, they would then extract it out of the brine again. So that is how they extracted salt. But for families, what is really cute is that the miners would use slides inside the mountains, and you can actually just slide down like the miners, and the kids really enjoy it. So
This
that's
is this
something
is
I would
this is the
suggest.
Hallstatter mine,
That's right.
right? Yeah.
There are a few salt mines around, and most of them offer tours. You just have
Mhm.
to check which one's open, and most of them will have these wooden slides that you just come down. It looks scary, but it's a lot of fun,
There's
and they
there's
really used
also
it
there's
as
also a
transport.
funicular ride that takes you up in
Yes,
the
that's how you
Salzkammergut.
get up
Yeah.
to the mountain. You have to be in the funicular
Mhm.
because the mines are high up in the mountains, so you
It
need
is
to get
often
up
said
there.
that in Austria, this region became famous after people started clicking photos of it and posting it
Mhm.
on social media. Where, Europe is just pretty anywhere you go. And
Hmm.
often, like, everyone talks about Salzburg, Innsbruck, and Vienna, but the regions around it, and like you rightly said, and I'm glad that you took that pause and decided to speak about these areas surrounding Salzburg, is because not many people knew about it up until, say, 20 or 25 years ago. But once people started sharing it on different social media platforms, these regions started becoming more famous. And that's why they say, like, if you were to ever visit Hallstatt, or Hallstatt, as they are called. They are often calling it Austria's prettiest town. But it's just that they'll also tell you that this became famous because people started clicking photos and putting them out there for the world to know. So that's that. Of course, Sunila, we've already run to about 20 minutes or 22 minutes.
Wow.
Now, should we move to Innsbruck?
Yes, we should definitely.
So tell us a little bit about Innsbruck.
Neil, Innsbruck, one of the favorite cities. So, it's funny in Austria, you would name something and say that this is the prettiest village. And then you move to the next one and you say, no, I think this is the prettiest village. And then you move to the next and then you say, look, everything's really pretty. So Innsbruck is something like that. It was where the Winter Olympics took place. So that should tell you how beautiful the mountains surrounding it are. There is again a funicular that you can take up and go, and you have the Nordkeet mountain, and you have some really nice views from there. And he actually serves some Indian food for those who like that as well. Just walking through the main streets of Innsbruck is amazing because cobblestone pathways, you dream of that European city village kind of a mix, and this is it. That is what you see. You have the golden roof, golden daichi. That is what most people see, which is actually copper tiled but gilded, and that is like the center point of Innsbruck. And you can go around seeing that. Very close to Innsbruck is what a lot of us know, and you can stay in Innsbruck and visit this, is this Swarovski Crystal Museum and the Crystal World. So you have the museum, you have a shop, and they actually had even created a horse in crystal, which was supposed to be Chetak of Maharana Pratap. Like the inspiration was taken from there, and then there are some really beautiful crystal displays inside. So that's something definitely that you can do in Innsbruck. And then Salzburg, Innsbruck isn't too far away. Also, it is very close to the border of Switzerland and Germany. So definitely when you come here, you can continue your journey onwards into Switzerland or into Germany for that matter from Innsbruck.
So Sunila, like the last time I was in Innsbruck was, I think, about 12 years ago. I just haven't had a chance to go to Austria back again. But of course, I've heard of Austria being a winter sports destination also, and people often like going in the summer. Now, what is a good time to go to Austria? We have spoken about the 3 cities. What are some other places? Because like you mentioned at the start of the episode, like Austria is also a place for lakes, and lakes in plenty. There are many lakes all around. So what other places do you recommend? And like, what else could one do? Because I've heard that it's also called a wellness destination. So let's move on to this part of the episode.
Yes, Neil, like lakes we just spoke about, there are lakes everywhere in Austria, and Salzkammergut is one of my favorite regions simply because it's just so easy and you can actually do a lot of things in the lake. So there are some hotels here which also have the swimming pool right in the lake, and it's a heated pool. So even when things are cold around you, you can enjoy a swim right in the lake. So it's quite stunning like that. What time to go really depends on what is it that you want to do. I would say we are approaching, like now is springtime and we are coming towards summer. So definitely places that you select or go to might change a little. For example, if you're going in winter and you're looking for a ski destination, there are many ski destinations in Austria. Zalám is something that is really popular with Indians. It has the lake, it has the mountains, amazing, skiing, amazing ski lifts and chair lifts, and really nice slopes that you can, even from first timers or if you're an experienced skier. So a lot of people from the surrounding Germany would come to Austria for skiing too. You have St. Anton, Arlberg, you have Vorarlberg, which is also a mountainy region. Albach is a very pretty village and again also famous for skiing. Innsbruck itself, the capital of Winter Olympics. So, again, what you do in summer and winter changes. So if you like winter, you like snow sports, you want to enjoy skiing and snowshoeing and things like that, then definitely these are the places to go.
I'd like to pause you out there. And because you're talking about skiing, I thought I'll bring this point in. See, of course, the Austrian Alps or the Swiss Alps or the French Pyrenees or wherever you're going skiing, one thing I'd like our listeners or viewers to know is that make sure that you see the mountain map before you book your holiday, because ski slopes are graded in different colors, black being the toughest. Now, in some countries, green is the easiest, some countries, blue is the easiest. you need to find out where the easy slopes are. So you don't want to go to a mountain and there just being one small easy slope that you have to keep doing all around. The first time that you start learning skiing, the easy slopes is where you will be at. And if you're going on a ski holiday and if you're doing it for 2 days, 3 days, which is a good time to get to learn the sport. And because most of us don't ski in India, it takes us slightly longer the older you are, because that sense of fear when you're coming down a mountain is quite there. So make sure you look at the ski slope or ski map of a particular ski resort or ski village. That will give you a good idea in picking what is a good skiing destination. So Neela, sorry, continue.
No, so that's a really important tip, and you want to plan all that before you go, not after you land there, because maybe it's too late when you go there. Neil, we were talking of winter, and in winter as well, wellness really is good, because after skiing, when your muscles are all aching, then a dip in a hot pool is something that is very, very welcome. But the same thing holds true in summer as well, because you can enjoy it a lot. And Austria is known for it. Like, they are known for their wellness areas and baths. And the best part is you find this all across the country, like everywhere you go, from Vienna to Bad Gastein to Carinthia, Styria, Tyrol. There are different states of Austria, and every state has something. Salzburger land. So we spoke of Salzkammergut. Even around there, there are many different spas. I would like to speak of one particular one in Tyrol, simply because I like it. So it's called the Aqua Dome, and in this place, from the 16th century, people knew about the hot waters that were curative in nature, and Langenfelder baths is what they would call it, and they would come here for that. Today, it is a very modern structure, and if you just go and Google Aqua Dome, Austria in Tyrol, you'll see this beautiful structure with lots of pools and glass domes, like inverted cones, I can call them. So glass cones that are inverted. I mean, just imagine the whole entire area, some 50,000 square meters. And you have these amazing big domes put out there, all kinds of treatments that you would want, and saunas, canyon saunas, so all kinds of ice cold grottos, caves where you can have an experience shower, where you can choose different settings, or go from like really cold caves to like cryotherapy, the cold therapy that they do, to something that is very good hot water. And of course, it is all medical in use as well. So for people with different conditions, it really works well. Or if you just want to relax also, it's a perfect place to go. So definitely try that out when you're in Austria. And I think the only thing I would like to mention, because I know we're running out of time and there's always so much to say, is maybe the wines of Austria, right? So the wines are really sweet. Wines are amazing. And if you're in Vienna, there are a lot of nice day trips that you can take out, like the Danube River just flows through there. So you can go to the Wachau Valley from Vienna, about 80 kilometers or so away. And you can taste some of the best wines out there. And while you're going, stop by the Melk Abbey, because it's a very beautiful Baroque structure that you cannot miss.
Wow. That's quite a lot. How many trips to Austria have you done?
I must have done about 4 or 5, probably. Like when I used to be a tour manager, then it was, I think, but we would see the same places over and over again, right? Every time it was Innsbruck and Salzburg. So maybe that I probably did a lot more times. But to the other areas was only 1 or 2 personal trips that I went in, and we were actually driving there in Austria. So it was a lot of fun. And staying in the smaller places was also a lot of fun. So it again depends, whatever you want to
Austria
do.
has good Christmas markets too, right?
That's right.
Because you
And in
mentioned
summer, they
wine.
have farmers markets, and in winter, they have Christmas markets. So,
Oh yeah, that brings me to an important point. That, see, the world's going digital, right? But in Austria, they say that if you're visiting any of these markets, some of the stores will only accept cash. So everyone, please keep that in mind, because if you're at a Christmas market, you'll probably get mulled wine for yourself. You'll get a lot of the food that you get. Australia is also known for its milk products, along with
Austria,
Switzerland.
Neil.
Austria, oh my God. Austria is also known for its milk products, like Switzerland. And that's why cheese also becomes a big part of their diet. So that becomes anything we missed out, Sanila.
There's a lot of outdoor things that you can do. So if you're more adventurous, like we mentioned in summer, I mean, trekking and hiking, of course, because the best mountains are out here, but a lot of soft adventure and different sports. So, just plan your holidays well is what I would say, because there is a lot of culture and you can get caught up in that and then ignore adventure. And then you reach there and say, hey, I would have loved to do all of this, like paddle boarding or anything that you want to do, all the water activities in the lakes, everything on the mountains that you can think of, all of that is possible. So kind of choose where and what you want to do and then plan it properly. Of course we are ready to help you, but anything that you want is possible in Austria.
Yeah, the last thing you want is you get there and then you realize, oh, I wish I would have spent a day more in this place, right? And we have all been in a situation like this. And I think Austria and Europe in particular often leaves you with that even 3 days in a place aren't enough, or 4 days in a place aren't enough.
True.
And that's why people keep going back. Well, I guess this was a good introduction to
Mhm.
Austria, Sunila. The first time in Austria, and once people go there, there are people who often come and say, I want to go a second time and a third time. So probably the next time we'll take one region or one lake and just talk about that, because I'm sure we have a lot to talk about when it comes to food, culture, history, geography, and everything else.
True.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sunila. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Neil.
much, listeners and viewers on YouTube. We'll see you next week with something super interesting. Stay tuned and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.